The first thing that we have is change or create model. We already created model. If we switch back to our code here, we have the book model and we added the DB set in application DB context. Now what we want to work on is adding a migration. To add that, we will go back inside tools. We have package manager and we have package manager console. Now here there are quite a few things to consider. Let me pin the solution explorer. When we add migration, there are two things to remember. One is what is the current startup project, and next, what is the default project. If I change the startup project to data access here, set that as a startup project, and we have the default project as the data access, let me add a migration here. In order to add migration, we have the command add migration, and we are adding the books table, so we can say add book to DB. This is the name that we have given to our migration. Make sure to name your migration as meaningful as possible. That way, when you take a look at the name, you can get a rough idea on what is going on. Once we select that, let me press enter and show you the error that we encounter. Let me expand this here, and you can see the error message that we have is the entity type book requires a primary key to be defined. In all tables, by default, it requires a primary key. In our book table, we have 4 columns, and we know that this ID book will be a primary key. But how can we explicitly define that, hey, this particular column needs to be an ID? To do that, we have data annotation. So on top of this property, we can write key and press Ctrl dot to add the using statement of system.componentModel.data annotation. Once we add that, then it will automatically tell Entity Framework Core that this column will be the primary key of the book table that we are planning to create. Now that is one way of doing things. Other way is if I only had this integer as an ID, and if I did not have the key annotation, Entity Framework Core will automatically assume that this is the primary key of the table. And that assumption is based on 2 conditions. If the property name is ID, and if your table does not have explicitly defined a key, it will assume that this ID is the primary key. Else if you have any other name, but if it ends with an ID here, and if key is not defined on any other property, then this column will also be assumed as the primary key of the table. With that change, let me come back here and execute that same command once again. And perfect, with that you can see migration was added successfully. Now where is this migration? If you notice in data access, it added a new folder and there are few files in this folder. I will walk you through on everything right here, but let me continue from the next video.